I bought the groceries. I cleaned the fridge. I even replaced the shower head she's been meaning to fix for 8 months. But the thing I remember most clearly from that morning is the click of her heels across the tile, and how she didn't stop to look back. Just a flash of lip gloss, a blazer too nice for a Marriott conference room, and a suitcase I didn't recognize. New, black leather, gold zipper. Not the beat-up Samsonite she usually drags through airport lobbies, half-broken handle and all. Another conference? I asked, eyes still on the grocery list. I didn't even look up. I knew the script. For our future, she said with that rehearsed smile. The one she's been wearing like armor lately. It's important. I nodded. Of course. Gotta chase those dreams. She kissed my cheek. Cold, distracted, and was gone before I finished writing eggs. I stared at the paper. I'd written milk twice, scratched it out. Then I walked over to the entryway, opened the coat closet, and looked at her umbrella. Still wet. It hadn't rained in our city for 3 days. I know. Sounds crazy, petty. But when you live with someone long enough, their lies echo louder than their words. She always took the red umbrella when she walked to the train station. Said it made her feel like a movie character. But it hadn't been touched in a week until today, which made no sense. She told me her coworker Andy was picking her up. So why the umbrella? The math didn't add up. And lately it never did. Over the last few months, I'd started to notice how often the itinerary changed. How the Hilton downtown turned into the conference center on 5th. And then a hotel 2 cities over. I told myself it didn't matter. But men like me, we log details. Not because we're obsessive. Because we're the ones left holding the pieces. I poured a cup of coffee and sat back down. Pulled up the GPS tracking app I'd installed on her car months ago. Not out of paranoia. Out of, what's the word? Instinct. And there it was. She told me she was headed to a financial seminar in Cedar Grove. But her car was already idling in a rest stop 50 miles west of that. Facing away from the direction she should have been going. Facing toward Brookline. Brookline is not a financial hub. It's where her boss owns a lake house. I stared at the dot blinking on the map. Then I reached into the junk drawer and pulled out the little notebook I'd started keeping. Scribbled down the time, the location, and her stated destination. Then I flipped back through the pages. 6 months. That's how long I've been collecting. Missed anniversaries. Canceled birthdays. Expense receipts from hotels I never stepped foot in. Duplicate restaurant charges. A dry cleaning bill with a lipstick stain on the receipt, on a suit I didn't own. Every entry was neat, tidy, quiet. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I just logged. Because the thing no one tells you about betrayal is that the ones who don't panic, the ones who stay quiet, are the ones you should fear the most. And if you've made it this far, do me one favor. Tap subscribe. More than 97% of people listen without subscribing, and it really helps the team bring stories like this to life. Back to the story. Her mom called me that night. Casual. Sweet. Mark, honey, have you seen Rachel lately? She hasn't called me back in weeks. She's on a work trip, I said, keeping my voice flat. Oh, her mom replied. Again. That word hit me harder than I expected. I closed the fridge, sat down, opened the notebook again, wrote one more word at the top of the page. Pattern. I wasn't angry yet, not even heartbroken, just focused. Because if there's one thing worse than being lied to, it's being made to feel crazy for noticing. And I wasn't crazy. I was just quiet. For now. Rachel forgot our anniversary for the first time in 12 years. No card. No text. Not even a lazy let's celebrate next weekend cop-out. She just didn't mention it at all. I waited until 11:59 p.m. before finally saying it out loud, like some idiot begging for scraps. So, 12 years today. She blinked. Oh, right. Wow. Already? Like our marriage was a dentist appointment that crept up on her. She said she'd make it up to me when she got back from Chicago. Only funny thing, there were no conferences in Chicago that week. At least not according to the company's website. I even checked the convention center's calendar. There was a floral expo and a tattoo convention. Unless she was getting roses inked across her lower back in a blazer, she wasn't in either of those rooms. But I didn't call her out. I just noted it in the log. Page 12. Chicago, no confirmed event, 3-night hotel stay, $267 per night. I didn't get flowers. I didn't even get an apology. But I did get a receipt. The more she traveled, the less present she became, even when she was physically here. Her eyes never stayed on me during conversations. Her phone was always face down. She'd go to the bathroom during dinner and come back with lipstick smudged and the scent of wine on her breath. And we weren't drinking. And there was the name. ED. It first popped up one night around midnight. Her phone lit up on the nightstand while she was in the shower. Just ED and a short line preview. Can't wait to see why. Before it disappeared. She never told me she had a friend or coworker with those initials. And if you think I went snooping, think again. I didn't need to. She left enough breadcrumbs for a flock of pigeons. A few days later, I checked her coat pocket before tossing it in the wash. Found a cocktail napkin from a rooftop bar in Brookline. Written on the back, Room 428. Use the service elevator. I took a photo. Logged it. Brookline. Napkin. Room 428. Next page. $92 charge. Cloud Lounge rooftop. She'd said she was in a training session until 9 p.m. that night. Then came the real test. I forgot her birthday. I didn't plan anything. No card. No reservation. Nothing. I waited to see if she'd get upset. Disappointed. Say something. She didn't. She came home at 10:17 p.m. smelling like gin and hotel shampoo. Heels in her hand. Hair a mess. Long day, I asked. Exhausting, she sighed. Back-to-back panels. My feet are killing me. She didn't notice there were no balloons. No dinner. No candles. Which told me everything I needed. Because the woman I married used to plan her birthday 3 weeks in advance. She'd send hints to my inbox with subject lines like, if you happen to be near a spa. Or, not saying I want this but. Now, silence. I sat in my home office that night and flipped back through the notebook. Every page told the same story. She wasn't working late. She wasn't building our future. She was disappearing. Her mother called again 2 nights later. Mark? She hasn't answered my texts in 3 days. Is everything okay with you too? I paused. Considered my options. I could say yes. I could lie. Instead, I said the truest thing I'd said in weeks. I'm starting to wonder. There was silence on the other end. Then her mom said softly, she's been different. I didn't reply. I just stared at the photos on the shelf across from me. Rachel and I on our honeymoon. Rachel laughing at a picnic. Rachel holding our niece, grinning like she'd just invented joy. I couldn't reconcile that woman with the one I was living with. And yet, here we were. I wasn't delusional. I wasn't paranoid. I was methodical. And I was running out of patience. She came back from her Denver trip walking like she'd won a damn award. Strutted into the kitchen with a croissant in one hand and a box of overpriced skincare in the other like she'd just closed a $1 million deal. I was making eggs. She barely acknowledged me before humming some tune I didn't recognize and saying, well, someone got some very good news. I turned off the burner and waited. Good news? I asked, setting a plate on the counter. She bit into her croissant. Ma'am. Harold, my boss, said if the next quarter goes well, there may be a big position opening up. VP? She smiled. Maybe. And all those late nights and back-to-back conferences? Worth it? Then. She took another bite. It's all for our future, babe. I told you. That line again. Should have made me proud. But instead, all I could hear was the echo of that napkin. Room 428. And the initials itty burning through my brain like acid through cloth. I watched her chew. Wondered if she even remembered the lie she told me last week about being in Toledo. Because the GPS had shown her parked at the Cedar Bay Resort until well past midnight. Her phone had gone dark for 5 hours that night. No texts. No location pings. Nothing. Just a clean black hole. She leaned across the counter to kiss my cheek. Maybe we can finally start looking at those houses we talked about. Houses, I said. In Oakbridge, she smiled. Good schools. Big yards. I nodded slowly. Sounds perfect. Maybe we can tell your parents over dinner. Her smile flickered. Dinner? Yeah. Your mom's been texting. She misses you. She hesitated, eyes darting just slightly. It's kind of early to be talking about this stuff. Nothing's official. I don't want to jinx it. I stirred my eggs. Right? Don't want to jinx it. She kissed me again. Perfume too heavy, mouth too sweet, and floated upstairs like her life had no gravity. I stared at the pan until the eggs burned. That night, after she fell asleep, I stepped outside and dialed her father. He picked up on the 3rd ring. Mark? Everything okay? Depends how honest you want me to be. I could hear him shift in his seat. I think Rachel's in trouble, I said. Or, she's doing something she's going to regret. A pause. She told us things were good. I know. That's what she tells me, too. Another pause. Longer this time. What are you saying, Mark? I swallowed. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to see it. Silence. I'm listening. I told him what I'd found. Not all of it. Just enough. The GPS logs. The receipts. The hotel napkin. Not once did he interrupt. When I finished, he exhaled. You want me to talk to her? No, I said. I want you to come with me. Next time she says she's going to a conference. I want you and her mom to see where she really ends up. That feels. I'm not trying to ruin her, I said. I just want the lying to stop. And she won't stop if it's just me. He went quiet again. Then he asked, do you love her? Enough to not let her lie to everyone who still does. There was a rustle on the other end. A whisper. Probably her mom asking what was going on. We're in, he said. Just tell us when. I hung up and went back inside. Rachel was asleep in bed, her mouth slightly open, breathing steady. I sat on the edge and watched her for a while, wondering what story she was living in her dreams, who she thought she was with, if she even thought about me at all when she closed her eyes. The thing about betrayal is, once you see the crack, you can't unsee it. You can patch it, paint over it, pretend it's a shadow. But it's there. And it always spreads. This wasn't going to be a scene. I wasn't throwing dishes or screaming in parking lots. I wasn't smashing her phone or digging through her messages like some desperate teenager. I was going to let her walk right into it. Let her rehearse her lie one more time. And this time, there'd be an audience. Friday morning, 6:48 a.m. Rachel was in full performance mode. Heels too high, blazer too tight, lips glossed into a war paint smile. She wheeled out the same sleek suitcase and handed me her cold brew with a little wink like we were still married in a meaningful way. Should be back Sunday night. Wish me luck. Break a leg, I said, sipping her coffee before handing it back. Where is it this time? Summit in Fairdale. 2 hours north. Panel on cross-market integration. Super boring. I nodded. Sounds riveting. She kissed me like she was trying not to leave a mark and floated out the door. No mention of what hotel. No printed itinerary like she used to do in the old days. Just a vague excuse and a practiced tone. 10 minutes later, I opened the GPS tracker. Her car was headed south, at first. But then west. Way west. I let it ride for 20 minutes before confirming it. She wasn't going to Fairdale. She was going to Delmere Springs. The place wasn't known for integration panels. It was known for $800 spa packages, wine tastings, and private villa upgrades. I checked the resort's website. There wasn't a single corporate booking listed. No events. No conferences. Just a couple's weekend package called Reconnect. I booked 2 rooms under aliases. One under Carl Jensen, the other Nora Bell. Corner units. Close enough to room 400S but not next door. Didn't want to spook anyone if she stepped into the hallway. Then I made the second call. Her parents didn't answer on the first ring. But when her dad picked up, his voice was tense. We still doing this? She just left. She's not going north. He didn't ask where. He just said, we're packed. I picked them up 20 minutes later. The car ride was quiet. Her mom sat in the back with a scarf knotted too tight around her neck, like she was trying to brace for an impact that hadn't happened yet. Her father stared out the window the whole time, gripping the edge of his seat, his knuckles pale and unmoving. She hasn't told us much lately, her mom said softly as we passed a cluster of old barns. Not like she used to. She used to call me every Sunday, her dad added. Even when she was busy. Maybe we're wrong, her mom said suddenly. Maybe it's just business stress. I didn't answer, just flicked on the turn signal and veered off the highway exit toward Delmere. 15 minutes later, we pulled into the resort parking lot. It was the kind of place that didn't believe in signs. Just a discreet bronze plaque, manicured hedges, and valet attendants who looked like they'd be more comfortable holding champagne than keys. And there it was, her car, parked crooked between a Lexus and a Tesla. Same plates, same dent in the rear bumper from that parking lot fender bender last fall. Her mother gasped. Her father's jaw tightened. He didn't say a word. I parked in the furthest corner, behind a hedge, turned off the engine. We sat in silence for a long moment. Then her father asked, "What now?" "She's in there," I said. "Room 428, if the billing statement was accurate. Check-in time was yesterday." I confirmed it. "Alone?" her mom whispered. "I don't think so." They both stared straight ahead at the building like it might crumble under their gaze. I handed them both a small folder. Photos, copies of receipts, GPS logs, just in case they needed confirmation after the fact. "We're not here to scream," I said. "Not here to shame her in public." Her dad opened the folder and stared at the receipts for a few seconds before closing it. "We're here to see the truth. That's all." I went inside first. Registered under the alias. No issues. 10 minutes later, I walked back out and led them both to the side entrance, the one that bypassed the main lobby. The staff didn't even glance at us. The elevator was tucked in the back hallway near the spa entrance. It smelled like lavender oil and high-income regret. I pressed the button for the 4th floor. Her mother didn't speak the entire ride up. She just stared at her reflection in the brushed steel panel, like she didn't recognize the woman looking back. As the doors opened, her father muttered, "Let's finish this." We walked down the hall in silence. Room 428, and the unmistakable sound of laughter behind the door. Not corporate laughter. Not polite networking chuckles. The kind of laughter you save for someone who has seen you naked, seen you weak, seen you lying. Her voice, unmistakable, cut through the door like a blade. They froze. I stepped forward, hand hovering just above the handle. The trap wasn't set anymore. It was sprung. The hallway carpet was soft, too soft, like they didn't want footsteps to echo, like they didn't want guilt to be heard. I led the way, but I could feel them behind me, every step growing heavier. Her mother walked like she was going to a funeral. Her father walked like he wanted to believe it was all a misunderstanding. I knew better. I'd known for weeks. Room 428. Same number that showed up on her billing history 3 times in the last 4 months. Always with the same merchant code. Hospitality, food service, and something labeled executive package, which turned out to be a couple spa session if you dug deep enough. I dug hard. The hallway bent slightly at the corner, then straightened. 424. 426. We stopped. The room was quiet for half a second. Then laughter. Her laughter. Too close. Too intimate. The sound she used to save for private jokes, for late-night movie marathons, for teasing me when I left the laundry in the washer overnight. And there was a second voice. Male. Low. Comfortable. A man who didn't think he had anything to hide. I looked at her parents. Her mom looked like she might vomit. Her dad's hand balled into a fist at his side, but he didn't raise it. Didn't move. I stepped forward. The door was ajar. Not much. Just enough for a sliver of light to leak out into the hallway. I put 2 fingers on it and pushed gently. It swung open an inch. Then 2. Inside, the first thing I saw was a high heel. One of hers. The red ones she told me she couldn't walk in anymore. Then a crumpled men's dress shirt on the floor. Buttons still fastened. Carelessly tossed near a silver room service tray. There were 2 wine glasses, both half full. A champagne bottle in a bucket, dripping condensation. And then her voice again, closer now. "Did you see the way Harold looked at me when I said I could handle the growth projections?" A pause. Then his voice. "He probably thinks you're too good for me." She laughed again. That laugh that used to melt me. "Everyone's too good for you." He laughed back. My hand hovered over the doorframe. This was it. The moment I'd built toward with each entry in that notebook. Every breadcrumb. Every lie. Every silent dinner and fading kiss. I knocked once. Firm. No hesitation. The laughter stopped. Silence. Then rustling. A clink of glass. A hurried shuffle of footsteps. The unmistakable sound of someone panicking. I pushed the door open. Her robe was barely wrapped around her. Still damp like she just stepped out of the steam room or the shower. Her hair clung to her collarbone. Behind her, a man scrambled to pull on his slacks. No shirt. Just pale, sweating skin and a face that hadn't prepared for witnesses. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Then, when she saw them, her father, her mother, the sound she made wasn't quite a gasp. It was smaller, like breath collapsing in on itself. Her mother blinked and turned away immediately. One hand pressed to her mouth. Her father didn't move. He just stared. Not with anger, with something worse. Disappointment. I walked in slowly, calm. My eyes met hers. Not with fury. Not even hurt. Just clarity. She opened her mouth, some desperate explanation trying to claw its way out. I reached into my pocket and pulled out her wedding ring. She hadn't worn it on this trip. Said it chafed her finger. I placed it on the desk, right beside the room service receipt. You said this was for our future, I said quietly. She stepped forward, stammering. Mark, it's not what the man behind her muttered. We didn't expect. I'm sure you didn't, I said. I turned toward her parents. Her father took one slow step backward. Her mother hadn't moved at all. And in that moment, Rachel, still dripping, robe clutched, eyes wild, finally realized this wasn't a scene she could spin. It wasn't a fight she could win. It wasn't just her husband who caught her. It was the two people whose respect she once lived for. And it had just shattered. She didn't speak at first. Just stood there, backlit by the lamp behind her. Robe clutched at her chest like that thin strip of fabric could preserve some dignity. Her hair was damp, curling slightly at the ends. No makeup now. Just flushed cheeks and raw, exposed skin. The kind you can't fake your way out of. 3 pairs of eyes locked on her. Mine, her mother's, her father's, and behind her, shirtless, barefoot, trying to slide his phone off the nightstand without drawing attention, stood the man she once called a mentor. The one she assured me was happily married and strictly professional. Harold. Of course it was Harold. The same Harold whose name showed up on hotel folios. The same one who just happened to be on every trip. The one who always lingered too long when I picked her up from company parties. The one who once told me, in front of her, "You're a lucky man, Mark. Women like her? Rare." Yeah. Rare like loyalty in that room. Rachel opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Her father's breathing shifted. He stepped forward once. Just one step. But it was enough. His eyes were glassy, not angry, not shouting. Just devastated. The look of a man whose daughter just broke every version of her he used to defend. Her mother made a soft sound, like a choked sob, then turned away, walked to the window, didn't say a word, just stared out at the resort's manicured lawn, arms crossed tightly like she was trying to hold herself in. And the hero of the hour, Harold, cleared his throat. This isn't what it... Listen, we didn't plan. I cut him off with a look, not a glare, just a stare that said plainly, "You've already lost the room." He fumbled for his shirt, gave up halfway, and took a step back toward the bedroom, like he might be able to disappear into the comforter. I didn't raise my voice, didn't scream. I just walked over to the desk, reached into my pocket, and pulled out the ring she hadn't worn in months. I placed it on the glass top, beside the open wine bottle, the smudged champagne flutes, and the room service receipt with her name on it. You said it was for our future, I said calmly. Rachel's eyes dropped to the ring like it had a charge, like it might explode. Mark, I didn't mean. No, I said. You did. You meant all of it. She stepped forward, the robe slipping slightly down her shoulder. She caught it instinctively, like modesty still mattered in the middle of this disaster. I didn't want to hurt you. She glanced at her parents. I was just working, I said. Networking? Integrating markets. Please, she whispered. Not like this. Her father finally spoke. His voice was quiet, shaky. Who are you? She froze. I raised you better than this, he said, almost to himself. Your mother and I. This isn't who we raised. Rachel blinked. Her lip trembled. Dad, No, he said firmly. Not now. Her mother still hadn't turned around. Harold, sensing the heat, finally tried to inject authority. Look, this doesn't have to get. Sit down, I said. He blinked. What? I pointed to the edge of the bed. Sit down. He hesitated. Then, like a schoolboy caught by the principal, he sat, awkwardly, shirt still clutched in one hand. Rachel just stood there, no longer pleading, just staring, mouth slightly open, as if waiting for anyone, to explain how the hell her perfectly scripted life had just ruptured in under 5 minutes. But there was no script for this. No email she could send. No post she could delete. No spin she could invent. Because this wasn't a private failure. It was a collapse. And every pillar she thought would hold me, her parents, her carefully constructed facade, had just caved in with a single knock at the door. No screaming. No thrown drinks. No violence. Just exposure. Brutal. Surgical. Final. The first voicemail came at 6:12 a.m. I didn't listen to it. Just watched the screen light up with her name, Rachel Mobile, then dim again. At 6:15, another. By 6:18, a text. Please just talk to me. I need to explain. Explain what exactly? That room 428 was an elaborate networking strategy? That Harold's chest was out because of a sauna? That the champagne was for hydration? I blocked the number by 7. By 9, my front porch security camera caught her standing there. Hoodie pulled tight, hair in a bun, eyes swollen like she hadn't slept. She rang the bell once, then again, then knocked softly, like I might suddenly forget the image of her robe sliding off her shoulder in front of her married boss. I watched from inside, silent. She stood there for 6 minutes. Just stood. Then sat on the step like a lost kid waiting to be picked up from practice. When she finally walked away, she left something tucked in the mailbox. A letter. I didn't open it. Just tossed it into the same drawer as the hotel receipts, the spa itinerary, and the napkin. The shrine of her undoing. Her parents called me later that afternoon, but not to apologize. Not to explain. Her dad asked, flatly, "Did she show up?" "Yeah." I figured. I heard her mom in the background say, "Tell him we're sorry." He didn't repeat it. I didn't need him to. They weren't returning her calls either. I knew that because Rachel tried to triangulate sympathy. Texting my sister, my coworker, even my barber. Just checking in. "Have you seen Mark?" As if I were missing. As if she didn't know exactly where I was when the truth burst out of that hotel room like smoke from a detonated lie. Then the real dominoes started to fall. Harold, surprise, had a wife. 2 kids. A daughter barely 16. Apparently, Rachel wasn't the first mentee he'd mentored past the minibar. But she was the one who got caught. Publicly. With enough fallout to burn him in every direction. He resigned, effective immediately the next morning. No formal statement. Just a line in an email. "Due to personal circumstances, I will be stepping away from my position indefinitely." Rachel, meanwhile, was placed on leave. No pay. Pending internal review. It wasn't a scandal, at least not on paper. But people love a gap in the story. It leaves room for whispers. And in our neighborhood, whispers travel fast. By Monday, our mail carrier gave me a look. Just a split second longer than usual. A nod that felt more like pity. By Wednesday, 2 women from Rachel's book club unfollowed her on social media. By Friday, the woman who ran the local yoga studio posted a photo captioned, "Energy doesn't lie. Neither should people." Not subtle. I changed the locks that weekend. Not out of spite. Out of certainty. She texted again the next morning. "Why would you do that?" "I needed to get my things." I replied once. "Your things are in the garage. Come get them when I'm not home." She didn't respond. But I knew she read it. That afternoon, I caught a glimpse of her car slowing down as it passed the house. Windows tinted. Music off. She didn't stop. Just drove on. And maybe for the first time it hit her. There wasn't going to be a tearful reunion. No second chance dinner. No, we just need space phase. This wasn't a cold shoulder. It was exile. Because when you lie long enough, loud enough to the people who loved you most, and they finally see you for who you really are, they don't argue. They just leave the room. And they don't come back. I knew the spin was coming before she even opened her mouth. That Monday, I got a message from an old mutual friend. Lisa. The kind who always stayed neutral, until drama became sport. "Hey, just checking in." Rachel said some things. "I figured I'd ask you directly before believing anything." Right? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Rachel had moved on to the next phase of damage control, projection. In her version of the story, I wasn't the quiet husband piecing together months of discrepancies. No, now I was controlling. Manipulative. A paranoid lunatic who weaponized her parents to corner her like it was some sort of courtroom ambush. According to her, I orchestrated the entire confrontation. I twisted receipts and tracked her like a stalker. And the affair? A moment of weakness. After months of being emotionally neglected. Never mind the wine-soaked laughter I'd heard through the crack in the door. Never mind the smudged glasses and silk robe. Never mind the married boss and the spa receipt that matched the very room her robe had been dropped in. She was trying to rewrite it. But the problem with living a double life is that when it cracks, everyone remembers the real version, especially the people you used to depend on to vouch for you. Her father spoke up first. At their church group the following Wednesday, someone gently asked how the kids were doing. Her dad, normally private to the point of near invisibility, didn't dodge. He looked the guy square in the eye and said, "My daughter was caught having an affair with her married boss. I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. That was it. No drama. No tears. Just a clean, surgical fact that killed the gossip before it even mutated." Her mother told her sister the next day. By the weekend, Rachel had been uninvited from her cousin's bridal shower. Even the women who wanted to believe her couldn't stomach the new narrative. Mark tricked you into being naked in a hotel with your shirtless boss? It didn't land. The version where I manipulated her parents, both of whom raised her, paid for her education, and once considered me the quiet son-in-law, was laughable on its face. Every twist she tried to apply just knotted the rope around her own story tighter. And I knew she was running out of plays because she showed up again. This time not with tears or voicemails. This time, she knocked on the door in the middle of the afternoon. No makeup. Same hoodie from the first visit. No car in sight. Must have parked it blocks away to avoid being seen. Smart move. Too late. I opened the door just wide enough to fill the frame. Her eyes were hollow. Not red. Not crying. Just emptied out. Like all the narratives she'd rehearsed had collapsed under their own weight. "Please," she said. "Can we talk? Not, I made a mistake. Not, I want to apologize. Just can we talk? Like we were equals. Like she hadn't shattered something sacred and expected the shards to reassemble on their own." I didn't answer. I just handed her a manila envelope. Thick, clean, already notarized. She took it without looking down. Then did. Her face stiffened. Inside, divorce papers. Already signed on my end. Already filed. Her breath caught in her throat. You're ending this?" "No," I said. "You did. I'm just making it official." She stared at the envelope like it was made of glass, then looked back up at me. Nothing in her eyes now. Not rage. Not even shame. Just the quiet, dawning recognition of something she couldn't twist. I closed the door. Didn't slam it. Didn't lock it in front of her. Just shut it the way you shut off a light in a room that's already empty. Let her stand there with her manila envelope full of consequences. No edits. No spin. Just the final draft. The silence didn't come suddenly. It crept in like fog under a locked door. Slow, quiet, all-consuming. The divorce paperwork slid through the system without a hiccup. No objections. No counters. She signed what I gave her because she had no leverage. I documented everything. The timeline. The receipts. The affair. There were no loopholes for her to wriggle through. No illusions of mutual fault. And when her attorney tried to hint at spousal support, my lawyer just smiled and handed over the folder labeled Documented Infidelity. Exhibit Packet A through F. They didn't bring it up again. She didn't even try to fight for the house. Probably couldn't bear to walk through it anymore. Knowing every inch of it reminded me of a lie. She moved into a rental on the edge of town. A beige duplex with a patchy yard and a single-window AC unit. I only knew that because her name was still on the voter registry when I checked. Curious. Not petty. Just tracking loose ends. I didn't block her voicemails. I wanted the record. I wanted to know what she sounded like without the safety net. The first ones were frantic. Apologies that didn't land. Promises to explain. Tears that sounded suspiciously dry. By the third week, the tone shifted. Less begging. More bargaining. Maybe we could talk sometime. Not about the marriage. Just as people. I didn't respond. Then came the confession. A voicemail I'll never delete because I don't need to. I messed up. I know that now, she said. Her voice cracked halfway through. I thought it was just momentum. I thought you didn't care anymore. But I realize now you were just quiet. And I mistook that for indifference. I'm so sorry. Click. No follow-up. That was the last time she ever called. The silence that followed wasn't awkward or painful. It was deserved. At work, she was reassigned, not fired, but moved. Her team dismantled. Her projects absorbed by others. She still showed up, but not to the same office. She wasn't invited to the executive lunches anymore. The email threads that used to copy her automatically stopped. People stopped laughing when she walked in. Her title still said director, but in practice she was little more than an assistant with a decent parking spot. Harold ghosted her completely, deleted his socials, moved back in with his wife, who, according to LinkedIn activity, now listed herself as divorced. Rebuilding. Her posts were filled with inspirational quotes about loyalty and resilience. None of them liked by Harold. Rachel's parents never issued a statement. But they didn't need to. Their absence did the speaking. They came to every family dinner, every birthday, every Sunday brunch at her sister's place. Without her, no public shaming, no shouting matches, just empty chairs where her name used to belong. She tried to show up to her niece's ballet recital once. Her father met her in the parking lot and said, gently but firmly, "Not today." She left without going inside. And me? I didn't throw a party. Didn't do the dramatic single-man makeover thing. Didn't start a revenge Instagram account filled with beach sunsets and healing quotes. I just lived. Cleaned out the fridge. Donated her books. Repainted the guest room. The ring? Still in the drawer. Not because I'm holding on, but because I want to remember how quiet a disaster can be when no one's willing to look at the map they're burning. She wasn't taken down by scandal or courtroom drama or angry Facebook rants. She was taken down by her own echoes. And now, she sits in a rental she never wanted, working a job that no longer listens, eating microwave dinners while the world she used to orbit spins on without her. Not with rage, not with joy, just silence. And silence, I've learned, is the loudest thing in the world when you're alone with it. It was late spring when she tried to come back, not to the marriage but to the family orbit she thought she could still quietly slip into. The occasion was her niece's 7th birthday, a backyard gathering with folding chairs, folding tables, and a sheet cake with uneven letters that read "Happy Birthday, Maddie." I was there by invitation. Her father had called me personally. "It would mean a lot to Maddie," he'd said. "You were always her favorite." No hesitation. No awkward disclaimers. Just a clean welcome. I brought a gift, nothing extravagant. Just a little art kit Maddie had circled in a catalog 2 months prior. I remembered because Rachel had tossed the catalog in the recycling without looking at it. When I arrived, her sister waved me over like nothing had ever changed. And maybe for them it hadn't. I wasn't the one who needed to explain why I vanished. I was sitting next to her father at the patio table, sipping lemonade, talking about lawn fertilizer, mundane, grounding, normal when it happened. The gate clicked. Her mother's head turned slightly. Then the air changed. It always does when someone walks into a room with a past no one's willing to forget. Rachel walked in slowly, wearing a yellow dress too bright for the occasion. She was thinner than I remembered. Not unhealthy, just reduced. She paused when she saw me sitting there, laughing at something her father had just said about the neighbor's botched retaining wall. I locked eyes with her, calm, unmoved. She gave a tiny wave. No one waved back. Her sister stiffened. The kids kept running unaware. The adults, though, they froze. Then her father stood. Not aggressively, not rudely, just enough to say this wasn't passive anymore. He looked her dead in the eyes. "Rachel," he said. His voice was low even. "We're not doing this. Not here." That was it. No anger. No theatrics. Just a boundary drawn so precisely it felt surgical. Rachel's lips parted slightly like she might object. But there was no room to argue. She looked to me, probably hoping for softness. For some sliver of shared nostalgia she could cling to. Something to justify her showing up without being asked. I met her gaze with the same quiet I'd carried since room 428. Then I turned back to Maddie, who had just run up in her little sparkly dress, hands sticky with frosting, grinning like the world was still whole. I bent down, scooped her up, and said with a smile, "Let's cut the cake." The moment sliced through Rachel like glass. She didn't say goodbye, didn't hug anyone. She turned, walked back through the gate she'd come from, and vanished down the sidewalk without a single glance over her shoulder. And maybe that was the real ending. Not the affair, not the divorce, not the voicemail she left in the middle of the night that I never responded to. It was this. The image of me lifting her niece with one arm while her father laughed and her mother poured juice into paper cups. Life went on. She didn't.